Hi, this is Steve Fryette, and welcome back to our third installment of the modeling workshop. This is a series where we are trying all the available modeling products into our new LX2 stereo tube power amplifier. And this is a 6L6 base power amp that puts out 40 watts aside in stereo mode and 80 watts to 85 watts roughly into bridge mono. Our reference power amp is a solid state power amp, a BGW. It's about 300 watts and bridge mono mode, and they're both set bridge mono and running into a cabinet. There's a whole lot of detail about the discussion of solid state versus tube power amps in the previous video, which is the 11 rack installment. It's quite long, quite deep, and quite technically detailed. So we're going to skip over all the technical mumbo jumbo, and if you want to get into that, check out that previous video and all of that really deep discussion about how these things work, how they interact, and how they result in the various kinds of power amp behavior, speaker response, harmonic balance, and playing dynamics come into play. So we have the Kemper Profiling Amplifier today, and unfortunately the coolest thing about the product, the profiling feature, is not what we're going to be focusing on. We're primarily using it as a sound source generator to compare the benefits and of the two different kinds of power amplifiers. I'd like to thank Thomas Wendt at Kemper for sending this to us so quickly. They've been very responsive, great people to work with. Another really cool thing I like about the Kemper is the fact that you can just get to the essential features on the fly without having to slog through the manual. The stomp boxes are all right here, and you got one switch that turns them all off. The amp models, EQ, and the cabinet sims are right here, and one switch that knocks all that out. Or you can get to the speaker sims, which we turn off on all of these because we've got a real guitar speaker cabinet, and the effects can all be turned off as a group or individually here. So it's really nice to have all that on the fly. Another thing you really have nice to have quickly accessible is the noise gate. Generally, I don't like noise gates. They impede, they impinge upon the dynamic response. So I try to keep it off or down as low as possible. I've got a little bit of gate on today because of the stock Strat pickups are a little noisy. Being able to turn on the EQ here activates all the tone controls, and the gain and the volumes are all right here. Everything is just really a cinch to get into as far as getting familiar with the equipment before having to really get deep into the manual. That's a really good thing, and any manufacturer should be striving for that. It's just really helps familiarize you with the product, and I think it just makes it more endearing to work with, and makes the customers a lot happier right out of the gate, which is a good thing. So we're going to start out with the Kemper going through the BGW solid state power amp and listen to that a little bit, and then we're going to switch to the LX2. All right, that's nice and balanced and even sounding, if a little bit squared off and a little tight. But now we're going to switch to the LX2 and see how that compares. Okay, as in the other demo videos we showed you, that got a little wider sounding and a little bit more airy, and had a little bit nicer pick attack response on the bottom end, just like on the other videos. So, and again, that's all explained in detail elsewhere, so we won't get into what's causing that. Just suffice to say that it's not tube coloring that's doing that, it's the amplifier behavior. And the other thing I noticed about the Kemper is that it's got one of the better dynamic attack responses of the modelers, and it's also got an adjustment that adjusts for the pick attack of the user. So if you're a hard player, you can back it off, and if you're a light player, you can crank it up a little bit to get it to snap the input a little more, which is a nice feature. So now I'm going to switch back to the BGW, and I'm going to play lightly and very gently, and then I'm going to slam it so you can see the difference in dynamic behavior. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the LX2 and do the same thing. All right, so you sitting on the other side of the YouTube screen are probably hearing what sounds like more bass. It's actually not more bass, it's just more reactive speaker response. And from where I'm sitting, I kind of feel it under my butt a little bit, and I snap on the strings and I feel it. And the Kemper is actually one of the better ones that's translating that feel. But still, a good quality solid state power amp will flatten that out, and a good quality tube power amp will enhance that dynamic playing response and give it a little bit more of a feel of realism without necessarily being unflat, without necessarily enhancing any particular frequencies. Okay, so now, as we said earlier, one of the features of the LX2 is that it's got an enhanced mode, which imparts more of our traditional power amp voicing like the 252 and 292. So we're going to switch back and forth between those two and see how they enhance the behavior of the Kemper Profiling Amp. This is flat. This is enhanced. Okay, as expected, that got a little bit more up front, and the bottom got quite a pronounced bit more snap. It didn't actually alter the tone quality so much as it just brought out some of the characteristic features of a stock Stratocaster, the nice maple neck, spank, the body woodiness, the open ringing string quality, the sort of piano-like characteristic of a good stock Strat. And so in that sense, there is no crime really in enhancing the functionality of a modeler using the enhanced mode in a live performance situation. It's actually just going to make it more fun to play, and it'll help the sound actually sit in the mix a little better. And I've talked to a couple of engineers that heard this, and first thing they said was, oh, that's going to just like land in the mix really nicely. So it's subtle, but it's very effective. I'm going to go back to the flat mode, and now we're going to discuss why we have the Valvulator I sitting on the top here. The Valvulator I, as many of you probably know, is our vacuum tube buffer. And what it does is it isolates the guitar pickup from excessive loading by long lengths of cable and pedal board loading between the pedal board and the guitar amp. And in effect, it serves to the function of plugging the guitar into something that's like plugging straight into the input of a tube guitar amplifier. It preserves the dynamics, the tone quality, the harmonics of the guitar, and just the overall playability of the instrument. We're using it here to pretty much not only compensate a little bit for the length of the cables between the guitar and the modeler, but because the input stage of a typical modeler is mostly a buffer to convert the signal coming from the guitar into what it needs to be to operate the analog to digital converter inside for the conversion into the digital domain. So they don't really do much to help the dynamics of the instrument so much, even though the Kemper does have a little bit more flexibility in that regard with the pick attack function, which is nice. Still, if you can retain more of the bounce and clarity of the guitar at the get-go, that would be really nice. So with the power amp set flat, I'm going to play a little bit again without the valvulator turned on, as it's been off all this time so far, and then I'm going to switch the valvulator on. So this is without it. This This is the Valvulator on. Now the Valvulator is basically a flat frequency response device, so it's not there to basically color the sound as some people seem to feel. It is supposed to be neutral. Its primary function is just to preserve dynamics and recover frequency response that you lose going through cables and pedals. So in this sense, you don't really hear so much change in tone. You just hear, like the tube power amp, a little bit more openness and air and responsiveness. That's exactly what we want. So now what we have is a modeling device with a little bit of spank and feel, which makes it more fun to play the guitar up front, and a little bit more voice and dynamic responsiveness between the power amp and the speakers down here. So overall, just enhances the playing experience and makes everything sound more organic and natural. So the last thing I'm going to do now, leaving the Valvulator on, I'm going to play it a little bit, and then I'm going to switch to the enhanced mode of the LX2. This is enhanced mode. Now I'm turning the Valvulator off. Now I'm turning the enhanced mode off. And now back to the solid state power amp. Okay, now I think it's pretty obvious the enhancements aren't necessarily frequency related, they're more response related, and that's really what guitar players are looking for in a live performance and recording playing experience, the feel of the instrument working with your fingers. I want to say that as good as these modeling devices are, anything that you can do to enhance and help that the characteristic feel of amplifiers into the performance is probably a good thing. And by knocking out the speaker sims, which are basically artificial representations of speaker cabinets, as nice as it is to be able to switch back and forth between them, they are just digital recreations of speaker simulators. They're not real speaker cabinets, and they won't interact with a solid-state power amplifier the way a guitar cabinet would into a tube power amplifier. And that's it for today. We're going to be back with another installment using the Line 6 Pod Pro HD. So look for that, and thanks for watching.